So good evening, everyone, and welcome to Closing Material Loops. This is the closing session of Home Truths, which has been a campaign running for the past 1 week. We started last weekend, and today is our second weekend and last day. We've had performances, we've had conversations, we've had workshops. We've had a number of engagements with various communities to find out not end products, but more to delve into their processes as to how they have been working, what are the changes that have brought in their everyday practice, how challenging or easy has it been, what are the lessons, and how do others learn out of it? As you can see in this session or in any other, the takers for a conversation like this are not many. I think the maximum we've had in a conversation has been 46 people. Though we've had many registrations, but the people who made to such a conversation have always been lesser. But having said that, we've had very rich conversations in fashion, in food, in all sorts of fields. And the question always comes to the point that why is all this so difficult? Why do we finally get stuck? Though we all want to live more conscious, ethical lives, take more conscious decisions, give back to the planet, but often it seems quite a task, and then what do we do? So we have two people here today. One who is directly responsible for starting me on this journey. So I owe him quite a lot. And it dates back straight to 2013 when Pranshu Singhal was with
me
Nokia.
too, actually.
Yeah, you too. And Pranshu was in Nokia then. And I still remember our first conversation. And we did speak about ironically the same issues, and the issues haven't changed much, though I think now we have more options, we have more approaches. And Pranshu is someone who's been consistently working in this field from Nokia to Microsoft, and then now his own organization. You will find his bio in the chat. He runs Karo Sambhav, who is a producer responsibility organization. That might sound like Greek to a lot of you, but maybe we will get to know more about it. So Pranshu, thank you for joining and finding time out of a very crazy schedule. And I also want to say that Karo Sambhav is supporting this campaign, and it is because of them that we are being able to run this campaign. And you will also have some more detail about the organization, Karo, how it works. It also has collection centers, and you'll find all of that in the chat, along with the links and everything. I want to welcome Swaroop Datta, who's again more known in Kolkata as a designer, as a scenographer, as a photographer, as somebody who creates very interesting commercial projects, but always very conscious projects in their own way, I think. And again, Swaroop has been on this journey starting with Pranshu and then along with me for all these years. And I don't think I've had a conversation about all of this without him ever. So it's good to have these two people in this conversation. And Swaroop, I'll hand it over to you to lay out the field and then see where we can go.
So, Pranshu, I've always, sort of been shuttling in different professional spaces, and obviously the awareness is there, that we need to be sustainable, and that questions does crop in. To give you a couple of examples, and we were talking about it, I am also in the event industry where a lot of, things that we use materially are recycled, but a lot of things are also sort of wasted. And out of the waste, there are a lot of material which we don't know how to recycle. We've not even looked at an option. So in the same way, sort of in an interior architecture space, slash at a personal level, you obviously want to sort of recycle and be on the right side. But it just always seems a sort of an uphill task because there seems to be no systems in place, and the onus seems to be on the individual to do all that, and which seems like a big task. So are there any frameworks that are available, through which we can sort of, have an easier way towards approaching a sustainable sort of way of living, especially in terms of material, Pran. So if you could just, help us.
So thank you, Sarup, and thank you, Paramita, for the introduction. A pleasure to be here talking to this group. So let's start at a macro level. I mean, we are in this so-called decade of change. UN announced it last year, and the assumption that many of us have been sitting around with is, हम थोड़ा change करेंगे तो शायद big picture things will get resolved. But actually, the things have already slipped out of hand, and in a very significant way. And if we can start from our own lives. Just look around you, for a second. Just everyone, just look around you. Think of what will happen to the lights that are lighting up your room, to the table and chair that you're sitting on, to the house that you are in. So what happens with the construction waste, or the demolition waste when it happens? What happens with the laptop, the mobile phones? Everything at some point in time will die. And in most cases, I would say in almost all cases, we don't know, and neither have we, I would say, cared to know as a society. And I'm talking about it at a societal level, not at an individual level, because it's just too much for an individual to handle. So I think the larger piece that I want to draw in is the whole patterns that we have drawn for our consumption and production have been largely unsustainable. And there is a very, very significant need to solve this problem. And it requires mass movement. I still, one of the good things that we are starting to see is, if I were to compare this dialogue that we used to have almost 8 years back versus now, things are drastically different. A lot more people are aware. A lot more companies are wanting to do something about it. There are large-scale financial systems which have been designed now to support action in this space. So things have started to move. However, the urgency remains, because if we are unable to solve this in the next 7-8 years, then we may have reached the point of no return, which is what UN has suggested, that we are almost at the point of no return. By 2030, if climate change actions do not amount to much, any actions that we are taking, and all these, again, if we break it down, it will all relate to our own recycling, humne kya participation kara, how have we managed things at our own end. So it will all amount to that. So I think a very critical point is urgency, and urgency at our own level, urgency in pushing systems around, urgency in if I were to say from a consumer or an individual or a people point of view, it's like, how do we buy better and less? Both, so how do we make our pattern sustainable? So what Karo Sambhav does broadly is, we started as an organization. We happen to be a PRO, but the larger space we operate is into design systems which are sustainable from a consumption point of view, which means that any company which is putting a product in the market, at some point in time, it has to be picked up. So how does one create collection systems? Then it has to be recycled. So how does one enable recycling? And then third is, how do you reutilize this material back? So there has to be a purpose to recycling. It can't be acha recycle kar diya, but okay, the material is lying around. So how do you ensure that you are able to reduce your dependence on virgin materials and essentially then mining? So Karo Sambhav started with electronics. We started creating systems of collection. Then we moved on to add plastics packaging. We are in early stages of setting up systems of collection across the country. And then we are opening up in batteries and glass waste, again, very large fractions out there. And all these problems are very large in themselves. I mean, when we talk of electronics, we are talking of roughly 4 million tons of waste being generated every year, 40 lakh tons of e-waste. If we talk of plastics, you are talking of 10 times more than this. If you're talking of batteries, you are again talking of 20 lakh tons of waste. If you're talking of glass, and the numbers are endless. When I was doing some work, I was amazed to know that several.
Pranshu and Swaroop.
Yeah, I was amazed to see that several lakh mattresses end up in landfill every year. So if you think around anything, the numbers are too huge, and the only way I think we can work this out is working with the production system. So essentially, whenever we are buying, we ask questions, and I think that is what this Home Truths is trying to do. Asking questions, getting conversation started. Because at the end of the day, अगर हम ही क्वेश्चन नहीं कर रहे हैं तो प्रॉब्लम तो शायद कभी सॉल्व ही नहीं होगी.
Pranshu, so we know where the material is coming from, right? Whereas as we were discussing that, we don't know where it's going. And it just seems like too much of a quantity, right, of material.
Yeah.
That we don't know where it's going after we're using it. And of course, everything is eventually getting discarded. Now, so when you're saying, that we need to lead and ask questions when we're buying things, a lot of time we feel that it's only our responsibility to recycle. But I mean, in a systemic level, are companies, responsible for recycling of the material, number one? And are there legislations in place which ensures that they should be doing this?
Yes, and Sarup, that's a big change between now and 10 years back when we started our first interactions. So today we have regulations which are mandating this. So on electronic side, there is something called electronic waste rules which exist, e-waste rules, which essentially mandate brands who are putting products on the market to create collection systems, and they have to meet a mandatory target for collection. Now, is it happening in the right way is a different question, and a lot of questions can be asked on that side. But as consumer, as people who are buying products, it is our full right today to even file a public interest litigation if we are not getting services back from these brands. So at least that right has now come. We as people can use the law to ensure that there are possibilities that have been created in our states. I would say whilst the law has come, the maturity of the systems is still in the very, very early stages. The law came almost 5 years back for electronics. For plastics, the law again, for e-waste, the law came actually in 2012. It was changed in 2017. For plastics, again, we have now had a law for almost 5 years. So 2016, it was suggested, and 2017, it came into effect. So any plastics packaging which is coming in your home, I mean, you have a right to ask question with that brand that, what do I do with this waste? Where is the collection system? How do I participate in your collection system? So law has provided that. So, and that's a big change. So companies are no more, and we need similar regulations in all spaces, ideally. So because such systems require finances and commitment. Now that commitment is not going to walk in on its own. I mean, voluntary work has only led to where we are at this point in time. There is only so much voluntary work can do. So we need now, I would say, a lot of mandatory actions and good enforcement to solve this problem at a vast scale. And I think if we as individuals start asking tough questions, maybe take people to task. And I think that would be the role of some of our activist friends to really drive this message. Otherwise, I don't know, if this decade for change would really be the decade for change.
So Pranshu, you're basically saying, for everyone who's here, for their advantage, that let's say if I have a mobile phone or a printer, or a charger, right? I have a right to ask questions, and the company who have sold the product to me will have to take it back, if I give it back. And there is a system through which I can give it back to them.
Yeah. The only difference is the law doesn't define till what extent they are going to create ease for you. So one of the things that someone may say is, so this ease part is another thing. It has not been defined. So, and because of that, what happens is even for—
So you're saying ease means that, I might have to go 10 kilometers and drop it off at a certain center,
Yes.
and it may not be in the
It may not be in your vicinity,
right?
or it may not be, because essentially ease relates to costs of compliance. And the more easy I make it for you, the more expensive the system is. So again, the more consumer noise, the more active participation, I think, the more people will start providing you door-to-door solutions. So, I mean, for everything.
But interestingly, in India, right, like with a lot of kabad, including electronics, right? When you sell it to a kabadi, I think we always want something back, as sort of a very Indian psyche, that there is a material value to it. So, even if it's raddi, we want some money back. It's not for free.
Yeah.
But I guess in this scenario, like recycling also has a cost, right? We never think of the fact that there is a cost, So, and that cost, do we bear, or does it?
So
do the company bear, or is it built into the cost of what is being sold to us?
At the end of the day, it is we who has to bear it. One way or the other. If you say that companies are going to bear it, of course, it is going to be added to the price.
Definitely.
So the systems essentially, it is us as a society who has to internalize this cost of things that we have externalized till now. Environmental costs हो गई, social costs हो गई, सबको externalize कर रखा है हमने. If you talk of informal sector, we are talking of at least 50 to 60 lakh people across the country whose livelihood is too dependent on managing our waste. And this is a very, in some way, a fairly hazardous job, because these people are cleaning up your mess. They are, and we don't show any responsibility. We mess up things as bad as we can, ideally. We would, if given a choice, you would mess it up even more. So, simple segregation practices. Even India is one of those very few countries, unique countries, I would say, where still source segregation is something like rocket science.
Yes, it is.
मतलब सिर्फ 2 डिब्बे या 3 डिब्बों में सामान को अलग करना, people think like, oh my god, it's such a Herculean task. So I think why
no, but it does get initially a bit confusing as to which one, what is the recycled one, what is the other one, what is the non-recycled one. It just does take a bit of practice, and if you've not been doing it, you do stammer, before you put it in the dabba as to which one should it go into.
I'm happy with stammering. What I'm unhappy is not willingness to even think. मतलब आज अगर जब से स्वच्छ भारत प्रोग्राम चालू है, for example, there is, if I look at my community or my locality, there is a a vehicle which comes every day with a certain music, and there are these themes of every city has its own music that they have assigned with segregation. That at least is a good reminder every single morning. You hear that okay, something I have to do, but we still ignore it. And that is not okay. So, whilst a government can create systems for large scale change, it is, a lot of it will require public participation, whether it is enforcement, and when I say enforcement, आज की date में हम सोचते हैं enforcement खाली government का काम है. No, if a law has been created, it has been created to do public good also. So it is our right to ask why are we not getting any benefits because of this law? Or if it is public participation in systems which are, for example, being even created by a company. I'm not saying that everyone is out there to do wrong things. There are organizations who are trying to do the right thing, but are we participating in that? Are we rewarding those organizations who are trying to do the right thing? Are we talking a bit more about them? Even those patterns are so low that it is not sending the right signals. So essentially, जो लोग करना भी चाहते हैं, it becomes that story वो कछुए वाली कि कोई ऊपर भी चलता है तो उसको पकड़ के नीचे खींच लो. So whilst we need to create completely other patterns, which inspire people to do more, which engage people, things like can we create experiences around waste? Clean, beautiful experiences, so that people really understand, okay, this is what happens if I do things in the right way. But that again will require a movement. And
So
again,
it's
going,
so
yeah.
sorry, Pranchu. Like, of course, two things come to my mind that so many of us when we travel abroad, our behavioral pattern so different in terms of sort of even in terms of disposal.
Yeah.
And when they come back to India, right, you just roll your window and throw things out. So of course there is a stark difference in the way we also sort of treat the scenario, and that you can get away with certain things which you can't get away with if you're traveling to Singapore, let's say.
Yeah, I would again take it back, Swaroop, to enforcement. And not
Right.
enforcement में थोड़ा broad term में use कर रहा हूँ. Enforcement को one can only think of it from a government point of view कि कोई आके पुलिस हम पे policing कर रहा है. Someone is putting a fine.
बगल में हम लोग बोले अब रिश्तेदार कम है.
So I am looking at enforcement from a whilst government can enforce, I am also saying at public enforcement.
Sure.
Ability of us to ask questions to individuals की, and it in a not threatening, I'm saying in a participative way that अगर किसी ने फेंका तो जाके उससे एक बार बात बोल दी, because that brings in a certain level of guilt.
Sure.
So I think it is, and that's the place where I think we as individuals need to act. Whilst I completely agree कि I can't create recycling systems. I am no one to invest in collection systems. That's the job of government. That's the job of brands. Yes, perfectly so. But it is your right to ask questions. It is our right to encourage others. It is our right to do things. अगर हम retail store पे जा रहे हैं तो वहाँ पे question पूछे कि भाई मैं recycling का सामान कहाँ दूँ आपको? If we start just asking these questions 10 times, if 100 customers go to, let's say, XYZ retail organization, an organized retail player, and ask these questions, they will communicate it back कि यार कुछ नया trend आ गया है. People are asking कि यहाँ पे ये disposal का सामान कहाँ दूँ मैं आपको? And that will bring in the change, because whenever I talk, I am working a lot with a lot of brands across the country, and everyone says ki why when everyone is looking at, or not everyone, I would say most of the organizations are today looking at जितना regulation में require ना उतना कर देते हैं. उतना कर देते हैं. But
of course I'll also like you to address the issue of corruption at some point, but coming back to one question which always pops up in my mind is that what happens, and I mean, let's just sort of narrow the domain because it's such a vast area in terms of e-waste, right? Like a lot of time, let's say if I sell a printer or a computer monitor to my kabadi, what happens, and why is it that we should not do it? Is there a problem in the way the material is dealt with?
Yeah, so let's take example of electronic waste, and then we can try it out with any other category.
Sure.
चाहे वो battery हो. So electronics में you have sold your waste to a kabadi wala, so he's going to take it. He's generally a small waste aggregator who will sell it to a larger waste aggregator. तो सबसे पहले तो hands बदलेगा. It will increase in value without being touched, so as it is. Then at a maybe tier 4 level, after it has exchanged multiple hands, it goes to an informal dismantler. So now this person is sitting out there with, and generally these are homes जिसमें men are going out and procuring products, and women and children are actually opening them up. So it is now being opened by some people who have no knowledge about how to open and the hazards associated with opening it up. So they get exposed to various types of things which are present. They get exposed to multiple other hazardous substances which are present, and these substances would, in a product itself, they are embedded, so they will not cause any harm. But now that you have opened and messed it around completely, then they start affecting human health and environment. And what these people will do, they will extract a few things, जैसे उसमें से थोड़ा steel निकाल लिया, copper निकाल लिया, tin निकाल लिया, which will have a market value, and rest का तो उठा के फेंक दिया कूड़े में या जला दिया. जैसे दिल्ली में it is fairly predominant to burn printed circuit boards after extracting materials, या जो उसका printed circuit board है उसको cyanide based acid bath से dip करके whatever materials can be extracted using electrolysis. So people would do that, or they would burn wires in open air because PVC है ऊपर, वो burn हो जाएगा, and then we would get copper or steel from inside the wires. So the challenge is with the informal sector is essentially the act of breaking it down to extract value, which ideally should be done in a controlled environment in a scientific way. And then because of these processes are not so well managed, you essentially also lose 50-60% of the material, because not everything that can be recycled is recycled. for the lack of processes. इसी को आप बैटरी का केस लो, think about a battery, even your lead acid battery. आपने किसी एक कार डीलर को बेच दिया, अब या तो वो कार डीलर आइडियली उसको अपने he should send it back to a recycler, but what in most cases you may find is they sell it to a local aggregator. Now the
Right.
first thing that the local aggregator would do is he would empty the acid in a drain. That's the very first thing.
Oh,
Because that's the weight, and then break it open and take some lead plates, and then lead is again smelted in an informal setting. So again there are whole hazardous impacts that will get that will occur because of this. And there are good scientific studies which have very clearly proven that the amount of people who suffer from cancer, tuberculosis, multiple these diseases in these communities is very high as compared to the regular population. Primarily because of the exposure to all these kinds of
hazardous material.
substances. Yes. You think about it, I mean, you will find it in every single, if you think of any single product you will find, think of light bulbs, your CFL lamps, they contain mercury and phosphor. Again, informal sector में क्या करते हैं, लोग तोड़ते हैं इसको और इसमें से छोटा सा चिप होता है एक, उसको निकाल के वो रीयूटिलाइजेशन के या काउंटरफीट बनाने के काम आता है,
products में, right?
Products में काम आता है. So and again here again, as I said, I am now starting to believe more in enforcement than voluntary action. And enforcement, as I said, is both crowdsourcing of enforcement in some way, and ideally government should open crowdsource enforcement. जैसे अभी हम ideas खाली crowdsource कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि कितने लोग कितनों को आप measure कर पाओगे? If you just crowdsource enforcement, कि आपको कहीं पे भी problem दे रही है, just go to this website, log in and share the videos. Then you can catch so many things. Or just outsource the data sets that government ends up collecting via all these programs, just provide it for public scrutiny, that what is really happening. If someone is claiming that I am doing XYZ, okay, I'm opening the data sets to public. Let public scrutinize.
Interesting. But also like once, sort of legislation is in place and you have laws, how much of it also gets impacted by sort of corrupt practices? Like, the country we live in, we're always trying to create our own short loop to sort of jump and figure out a way of sort of, doing the minimum possible. Is that also a like impediment? I mean, at a personal level, as well as sort of as a corporate culture, does that also?
So Sarup, this is human nature at the end of the day. And
that's why you're talking about, sort of enforcement, you're saying.
Yes. So wherever such regulations have been brought in, and I'm talking of extended producer responsibility, which says that if you are a brand and you are selling a product, then you are liable to pay the cost of collection and recycling it when it reaches the end of life. So जैसे आपने, for example, अभी cars में अभी आ जाएगा थोड़े time में, if you have bought a car 15 years down the line, the car company is supposed to offer you something, take back your car and get it recycled. It happens in all countries. In most mature markets, it will happen here. Or you have bought batteries, the company's liability is to take back those batteries, get it recycled. So now the moment these sort of systems come into play, the first thing as a regular response is, how do I do it at the lowest cost?
Sure.
And what is the lowest cost? Lowest cost would mean not providing ease to the consumer. Ideally, in an ideal, if I were to say intentful channel, I would, and if cost was not a constant, I would ideally like to collect it from your home, offer you XYZ, but we will have to find ways to, how do we procure the material at the lowest cost?
Sure.
You would also think, how do I recycle it at the lowest cost? Which essentially means that, do I have advanced systems and technologies to recycle the material in the best possible way? And then, everyone who is involved, are they getting fair wages? Are they being treated? Like if you look at at the informal sector of India, we are essentially talking extremely, low wages for people. मतलब लोग पूरे दिन लग के plastic waste उठाते हैं, and what do they end up earning for that whole day of labor? So all these things will essentially be determined by my willingness to invest in my compliance. And there are multiple ways now. Either government sets up a benchmark, you have to at least spend this amount of money,
Sure.
which could be one way of regulating the system, and prove to me that you have, or say that if you may have done it in XY cost, but prove to me that it can be doable in this cost. Otherwise, what happens is, so corruption would emerge. So people may not even collect, but say they have collected. People may not even
Right.
recycle, they may have. And it could be just on a paper. And we are seeing it across sectors.
I'm sure.
E-waste mein nahi hai. Matlab, this is, until unless you create benchmarks, you create certain systems and processes, you
And
create very
audits of
strong
sorts.
audit mechanism. And ideally, because ये data sets इतने बड़े हैं, भाई कहाँ तक government भी इसको audit कर लेगी?
Audit kar
You know,
paएगी.
the idea is, for me, I have become a very strong believer in public scrutiny. You just open these data sets. One or the other person out there, even a researcher, would someday pick up this data and open things. Or you assign, bring in. We have so many great technology institutions in this country. Just start distributing those data sets. Make it a regular course. Ki, this is your part of your activity. So every IIT has to a course hai jisme you have to do a physical assessment of some of these data sets. How do you? I mean, there are multiple ways it can be solved, but we need to change. And until unless that is done, we may have a great law, but we may never have great output of the law.
But how do you sort of, improve awareness around it? It's very interesting. Let's say if I go, a lot of time I'm involved in doing events, and then I go to a customer and I say, oh, but maybe I don't want to use the oasis on which you put the flower in. And they might just think that, oh, here comes an activist with like,
so
look at the event manager and say, please, kisko le aaya aap?
So my answer again would be, and I'm continuously considering ki what is it, because मेरे दिमाग में सिर्फ दो चीजें हैं इस समय, decade of change and urgency, and that's why I started my talk with that. कि अगर मुझे चीजें जल्दी करनी है, urgency लेके आनी है अपने काम में, तो ये voluntary approach से तो नहीं होगा. मतलब we have waited, we have tried it for 3 decades, 4 decades we have tried कि, since the Stockholm Convention in 1972 and the first environmental regulations, we have hoped that we'll get into place, but we have not, and that's why there is we need to take some more mandatory things right now. And अगर awareness की बात करते हैं तो इन rules में जो EPR based rules है इसमें awareness की भी mandatory obligation है brands की. How many of them have done it? In a way, you see marketing ads in all different ways. Some of them, and I'm not saying 100% of the brands are not doing it. There are some outliers who are trying on a continuous basis. But imagine if everyone was outlier, if everyone was following the law in the way it was. I mean, just if every single ad that is coming on your TV had a simple message at the end of it, don't, segregate your e-waste. Just a very simple. Would it not start changing the context? Okay. If every radio ad, if every newspaper ad, I mean, advertising.
I guess it requires that much of hammering, right?
It requires, and it will again, and that's what I'm saying.
Because at the moment, at the moment, I just feel that it seems like something important that we should do, but it's still not something urgent, number one. And sustainability seems an unsustainable practice. It just seems like I have to pay so much more for sustaining, like let's say if I buy something organic, I know it's a better practice, but it's just so way more expensive. If I want to buy packaging, which is sustainable and recycling, as opposed to buying a plastic cut up, it just seems so much more expensive.
Yeah, completely hear you. Iska answer sirf ek hai. Either material ban, ki acha, if it is unsustainable, I'll ban the material. या अगर ये recycle किया जा सकता है तो then I have to force people to create those systems for recycling. There is really no other midway here. So if it is the only thing is, why do you feel it is expensive? Because there is an unlevel playing field. उसका एक substitute available है जो कि unsustainable है. अगर enforcement अच्छे से होगा तो substitute ही नहीं होगा. All you have is 5 different products offering you great, environmental
Absolutely.
things.
Absolutely.
And then you are paying, because the cost has been inbuilt, and you are saying a price is being raised across because that is fair, that is level playing field. आज की डेट में ऐसा नहीं है, and what at the end of the day, whatever brands and producers are doing is a reflection of who we are as individuals. ना हम मांग रहे तो वो दे नहीं रहे. Think of why did diet colas come? Because there was a public demand. Right. They did not come on their own, or now people are moving towards healthier drinks. You see very large shifts in how the catalog of a FMCG company has changed. in the last few years. Healthier choices have started taking center place, and it is because they are seeing those market trends. They are seeing people asking those questions. So whilst one can say it's a chicken and the egg, but I would say दोनों का ही काम जरूरी है. ये अकेले से तो
But
नहीं
it's
होने.
also interesting that a lot of time it also seems just a bastardized word. You use it because it'll just catch attention and people will buy it. So you have to have, you have to say something which just seems or sounds responsible. But I hear you when you say that we need to ask more questions. I mean, if we ask questions, that's the only way.
Even if 1% of our population starts asking question, even if 0.1, it is enough for a mass movement to happen.
Interesting.
I mean, and today you have that right. I mean, that's what I'm saying. As the rule is there, today we have that right to ask those questions.
I mean, so many of us are just not even aware of the fact that we have that right to ask these questions. I mean, also the awareness level is so low that we don't even know that, such frameworks exist, within which we are allowed to ask these questions, or we're empowered to ask these questions. So it's interesting that, we're having this conversation because I'm sure a lot of us just don't know the frameworks exist. So what is the way forward, Pranshu? I mean, how at a domestic level should we start? If I have to break this down, I mean, I'm understanding that, there is systemic changes. There are sort of, laws which are getting enforced. Companies have to comply. Of course, it's taking time. But in the meantime, and I understand the whole idea that you're talking about, the decade of change and the fact that there is a sense of urgency that needs to come in. At an individual level, apart from going and asking questions, how do we start? Like, is there a roadmap at an individual level?
Sorry, itna आसान होता तो I would have given you. But मेरे लिए तो सिर्फ मतलब the easiest thing that I can do is whatever
like
I
wake
can
up
manage.
And say, okay, I want to have a sustainable practice. Like, how do we do it?
Yeah, so for me it is, and again, sorry, my answer is again a question in itself. I would say if I'm buying something, I will consider why am I buying it? Can I buy it with lesser packaging? For example, can I buy a more energy efficient product? Can I ask 10 questions to the retailer, because retailer is the person who gets the message all the way to the brands eventually. Ask him about recycling, ask him about a lot
You're
of
also
other
buying
things.
online. Huh? There's not much possibility of asking questions, but any which way.
Yeah, but so yeah, then you have public
There's
petitions.
No feedback mechanism. Yeah,
you ask. There is always a feed. Give them 0 if there is no space for you to understand what they are doing. So I think some way or the other, I mean, for me the answer lies in questions. Because जब तक वो patterns नहीं बनेंगे ना, जब तक people will not start feeling the heat that this is important thing, this is required, I don't think ये shift होने वाले, and we can just.
I think I know why you decided to partner with Home Truths, because this was our tag to ask the I mean seek answers to which nobody asked the questions. And I think that's where we are actually in. Sorry that I just got in, but in India we are not encouraged to ask questions at all. It is not about knowing frameworks or anything, because if you ask questions, then you stand out, and you're always told to just blend with the crowd. You're always told to blend and not stand out. Just comply and stand by and just melt in the crowd instead of standing out. So the moment you critically ask questions, and then now I think especially in this social media world where you're buying everything online, if you just type simple white dress on Instagram, you will find 10,000 recommendations that will hit you. But if you choose 4 brands that you want to buy and you ask them a question, which Pranshu said, they are bound to answer, and they do answer. If I do that all the time when I see somebody selling any beauty product and I ask them, oh, what is your packaging? Do you sell in glass bottles? Because it looks like glass, but is it glass? And then after I use it, what should I do with the bottle? The brands that don't have an answer will say, who are still honest, they say that we are trying to find a solution to this. We are still struggling, but for now you could send it back to us and we will pay for the courier. So at least some brands say that.
You've had brands who say that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do. A lot of beauty brands have started doing that because, as Pranshu said, the more people ask the question, they are bound to answer it, because the problem remains from a very big retail store to your common market or your fish market. If there are 10 people who say, don't give me plastic, you give the plastic to me in my bag, you give the fish to me in my bag. For the next person, the person will say, have you got your bag? But here it is just the opposite. Every person asks for 5 extra bags. So even if it's a cost for them, they have to stock those bags. And I ask these questions every day, and now they say, oh, now madam has come with a tiffin box. Because I go with my tiffin box. You know, I don't even take a bag. I said, you cut it and you put it in a box. It's this easy. I just go home, wash it, and I stock it. So, but, you know, a lot of time when I speak to other people, they're like, oh, what are the companies doing? What is this person doing? What is the government doing? I think one thing that we've learned in the pandemic time is the balance. While they have to do their job, we have to do ours. And I think that's why this conversation is so crucial at the moment with everybody that I spoke to in these last 2 weekends, is that everybody said, starting from Ashwika Kapoor, who is a wildlife filmmaker, to Pranshu, who's working in this material and waste sector, to people working in the food sector, everybody's saying we have to stick to our guns and do what we can in our immediate surrounding. So this architect that we spoke to just before this, they said that when I build a building that breathes, I'm not only changing the life for one person, but I'm changing the life for all those people who are going to live in this building henceforth. Yes. So when the quality of their life changes and they go to a building that's all cloistered, they will immediately notice what they are blessed with. Yeah. Absolutely. So it is, yeah, I think it is knowledge that is accrual. It will build on itself. It has to be layered like jam on toast and constantly keep layering and keep hammering. And that is where I always come back to art. I feel that as artists, we have such a huge responsibility, because like Pranshu said, to create experiences of how can it feel. And I think Shruti is here. We were speaking a few years back about, you know, litter nashini. Like we have the Durga Puja and we have this nashini, that nashini. We were speaking of a campaign called litter nashini. You know, that there is a Durga who is litter nashini, and it might seem absurd, but it gives you another context that people haven't even thought about, and especially for children. And I think that's where Pranshu is working majorly, because a lot of the money that these brands are spending as part of the EPR practice is to actually instill awareness in school children. And I think Pranshu is doing a fantastic job that Bokaro Sambhav is doing, of actually making a toolkit that educates teachers and not children, because teachers are the goalposts, you know. Children have to pass through. And we've been part of this program in Kolkata for the last now 4 years. And it's been such an enlightening practice to work with teachers, work with children, visit teachers after a year to know their feedback and what they have felt with the students and how have things changed. And the only problem is that we're running out of time. And all of this seems like fairly slow running, you know, process. And maybe right now there is no time for that. So while we are working...
I think that'll also hasten. I think we always react the most to fear.
To fear. Unfortunately.
Unfortunately. And so, you know, when it'll be about survival, we'll all adapt and change, you know, and it'll be quicker.
But problem, us approach me, yeah, there is no point of return uske baad.
There is no point of return.
So we already the challenge is very different here. We've crossed over the precipice. I mean, this is the real problem. We assume ki, you know, jo bhi kharab hua hai, because we are always hopeful. But in this case, there is, you can't change back. I mean, you can't freeze the glaciers again. You can't undo what has happened. So,
in fact, one of the questions I asked Pranshu very early in our association was that why do we give such a hopeful picture, and why not a more gloom doom picture? And at that time he had said that if you've already crossed tipping point and you believe that you've crossed tipping point, then you're going to just give up anyway and you'll not do anything about it. And so many years later, when I was talking to Ashwika last week, she said the same thing. that yes, I'm a wildlife filmmaker. I see climate change like nobody. I dive into the deepest seas and I see a white coral reef. It's dead. And the way I encounter it, it kills me every day. But at the same time, I come across numerous such instances where an animal, which is maybe the last of maybe four numbers of a species, the local people, the local habitat has taken them in, has made them part of family, and that is why they have survived. So while I'm a filmmaker and I see the gloom doom picture, I always prefer to show the picture of hope, because that is what turns people on to say, maybe I can be part of that, because the gloom doom picture kills people inside and they say, oh, well, anyway, I'm just done, and what is the point? So
gloom doom picture probably works more for not
the companies.
Yeah, it does.
For the corporates.
Probably, I believe so.
Yes, same. I also feel the same. It really works.
Because it gives a very clear, specific action. See, for individuals, action is not so, you cannot decipher it in a very clear term. But for an organization, you can very clear set goalposts and
very clear goalposts, very clear milestones.
Itna waste uthana hai. Itna karna hai. So that clarity is also very important.
Very important.
Because otherwise, if you say, okay, this is a problem and, do something. Then what is that do something?
Do something kya hai?
Something is, कोई goal post ही नहीं है. And ये हमारे e-waste tools में रहा था जब rules introduce हुए थे first time in 2012. There were no targets. In 5 years, first 5 years, there was literally no action. No action.
I know.
So Pranshu, kitni recycling हो रही है? If I may ask, just to sort of quantify, let's say in an electronic.
आप PIL file करो इस पे, उसके बाद आप. So क्योंकि जो numbers कहे जा रहे हैं versus जो number असली में है, शायद मेरे हिसाब से तो फर्क है काफी उसमें.
But kitne? But still, like, what is like? How would, if I have to just put like a number to it, like कितना percent like recycling हो रहा है? On an optimistic note.
Percentage में तो 3-4-5%, उससे ज़्यादा नहीं होगा.
अच्छा.
Total quantum में. And
this is one sector.
And this is one sector. And again, when I say recycling के भी levels है ना. So one can say कि अच्छा मैंने refrigerator for example recycle कर लिया, लेकिन उसमें जो CFC गैस थी वो तो नहीं रिकवर
निकल गई.
हाँ, वो तो निकल गई. या उसमें जो ऑयल्स थे वो पकड़ में नहीं आए, कॉपर पकड़ के कर दिया. Now you have left out the most toxic fraction, या उसका जो polyurethane था जो उसके अंदर फोम होती है, insulation foam, वो भी डिप्ड होती है CFCs में, वो सारा निकल गया. या फिर वो फोम मैंने लैंडफिल में भेज दी. Then you are saying okay, metals तो पहले से ही रिसाइकल हो रहे थे. You are with me. Then copper और एल्युमिनियम तो पहले कबाड़ी वाले भी कर रहे थे, अच्छे से कर रहे थे.
तो अब आप कर रहे हो.
अब आपने closed environment में कर लिया, which is better, but then that is not the jump that we are looking at.
That is not the jump.
All I'm saying is this requires quantum jumps थोड़े से, considering the urgency and the decade of
because we are running out of time. Absolutely.
Because we are running out of time.
That is why now, Abhi, whatever action we're talking about, all this inspirational stuff that we've been working on since ever, like now it seems like a lifetime. It's clearly not enough, probably. That's all. I mean, that's what I have been feeling when it's through COVID times. First, it was all skies are blue, there are birds have come back, everything is very beautiful, trees are green. All this happy picture was painted. And then suddenly I see so much COVID waste. I had a COVID patient at home, and I'm just saying every day the waste I'm throwing out is crazy. And I'm saying that for a conscious person like me, if that's the waste I'm throwing out, what is happening to households where there is no...
Yeah, well, you see, I mean, it's how interesting, right? The fear of COVID kind of put away all other compliances.
Absolutely. And if you recall, just before lockdown, just 3 months before that, we were going into single ban plastic in such a huge way. You know, newspaper ads, this, that, and single ban hoga, ye hoga. And then in 3 months, everything is flown out of the window and only the skies are blue, you see. So suddenly this narrative has changed. In fact, the whole point behind Home Truths was that the last 3 months, this is all I've been thinking about. And I said, if I don't do this now, when will I do this? It's June. Let's do this, you know. And it is a struggle to get anything into people's minds in this time when everybody is just collectively, I don't know, grieving and thinking about what to do and so much uncertainty. But I still felt it was worth it to have some sort of conversation across fields. And I think one thing that we did, like in the piece that we did yesterday between two dancers of two different styles, when I asked them to play with the concept of the circular loop and the kind of responses they came up with, I'll share with you, Pranshu, later, you can have a look. The thing is that one of the questions we asked them was, what is the one step you will take in your life as an artist, as a human? And when they shared that through their practice and through their all the question answers that we had, so many people have written back to me saying that, okay, you know, everybody's saying, oh, what can I do? So many questions have suddenly come up. And I think that's all, maybe at an individual level, that's probably what we need to do, is to just push, question, shove things around. And as Pranshu said, there is the structure, there is the law, and just to push things as to why are you not doing this?
Absolutely.
And clearly in the last so many years, I have clearly more people asking me about what I do with my waste than they used to ask maybe
Before.
some time back.
Yeah.
So there are more number of people, and probably there can be more collective consciousness and action, but still we are going slow. Anyway, should we open the floor to the audience? And
Yeah, I
see
think
if
we should.
anybody,
I'm sure there
we
are
are
questions.
already running out of
We'd
time
love
now.
to-
So if anybody has a question, you could unmute yourself or just put the question in the chat. Vibha, would you like to
Please go ahead.
unmute or put the question in the chat?
I'm just thinking aloud. How about creating a kind of a, manual and putting out, fun memes on WhatsApp, which gets circulated and which everyone sees. So instead of, making it a very serious platform of art, let's look at the other art form.
Okay.
And I think it just might reach out and hit a sensitive spot.
That's a very good point, Revive. Actually, we are sharing in our chat. I don't know if we've already put it. I think we'll put it right away. So team, if you can put in the thing about the sustainable guide. So one of our partners that we commonly work with is Y-East, and who are a platform that bring a lot of the environmental agencies together. And they have just brought out a sustainable guide to living. And I'll just put that link in the chat very soon, which in a very simple way outlines how you can make changes to daily life and do things. And if you want to do certain things, what are the agencies that you can possibly go to? What are the reading material? There are a lot of links. There are a lot of things that you can read up. So that's there. But also there are 100 environmental pages on Instagram now, Vibha, which have a lot of fun chats and a lot of fun facts. Lot of things are up. There are lots of eco bloggers now who just blog about changes in everyday life, what to do now. And there are many, many, many such chats. But the thing only is that, are we looking out for them? Are we reading them? And then what are we making out of them? So it finally ends up with, there is everything is available. What are you doing with it? So Devarchan, you have a question?
Yeah. So this actually goes back to something Pranshu was talking about quite a bit, like in the earlier part. And I think, so one challenge I see kind of emerging is that as we, like, if corporates do take this seriously and we kind of manage to push the discourse towards producer responsibility and so on, I see this risk that in that formalization, we lose all of the employment that this sector generates even in the informal setting. No, I agree with the concerns that the employment is perhaps among the worst kinds of employment in the world. There's a lot of hazard which exists, and it's almost it's deprivation literally. But the challenge is that we have some of the highest unemployment rates in the region. There is a crisis which the formal sector is not able to kind of understand. And if my fear is that it's always easier to kind of automate and formalize and create kind of, if the corporates have to do it, those are the ways they will go for it, as opposed to really involving waste pickers or creating, working with the people who are scavenging. It's much easier to find some kind of a technical hack to solve that problem.
So Devarchan, I have a counter narrative here. So one of our biggest work has been in terms of collaborating with the informal sector, making the program inclusive. What I refer to, why I refer to, अगर ये inclusion को भी आगे बढ़ाना है ना, then I need to pay fair wages. Then I need to ensure कि children are not participating in any collection. They need to go to school, but they will only go to school when parents are earning enough. They have enough. It is not that a lot of these things are being done by choice. It is just also the situation in which people are stuck, which leads to waste collection by children or by very young people. So programs can be exclusive, and again, it's a thing of I again see role of policy in this and enforcement, that okay, you are working with the social, let's say you have made the program inclusive, but what does it converge to? Are there minimum guidelines that are being defined that this is how you work with the informal sector? So a lot of it can be sorted, but what is again required is how do you, it goes back again, how do you measure the success and how do you audit the systems? Because if we don't do that, one can say whatever, but real outcomes would be very different. Because this will only happen when the costs of compliance are not, today, the systems are all running towards having the lowest cost of compliance. And this doesn't support, what I'm saying does not support lowest cost of compliance. It will require at least some level of cost of compliance, a bit higher than, or maybe even significantly higher than what people are spending today. But जब तक आप मॉनिटर नहीं करेंगे इस सिस्टम को, तब तक तो वो काम ही नहीं करेगा, वो मॉनिटरिंग नहीं हो रही है अभी.
But ये मॉनिटरिंग का क्वेश्चन, if it comes down to state capacity, तो वो तो फिर रोड ब्लॉक हो जाता है कि state capacity तो कम है ही.
That's why I'm saying use public, open the data sets to public. We as individuals have right, as citizens we have the right to ask questions under the law. We have a role to play.
And essentially you're thinking that maybe like by naming and shaming companies from that data, we get compliance, or we kind of create a leaderboard of
something of that sort. Naming or shaming, or just simple pure enforcement, asking questions. This is the law of the land. Are you following it? That's it. The moment you ask two, several others get activated.
I think Devarchan, if I may just intervene, that there's a big lesson to learn from the fashion industry, because the moment that Bangladesh mall blast happened, where so many workers died, etc., this whole angle of how the fashion industry outsources its jobs to people in the Asian countries and under what conditions they work, and therefore this whole questioning back the system of who made my clothes, that went into a whole campaign, and a lot of fashion industry was actually pushed into changing how they worked, how they advertised, or what kind of clothing they made, and a lot of them put their tailors forward, and suddenly there was a whole movement to showing till now they were hiding, as if, oh, we have this very glitzy retail store, but nobody sees who makes the clothes. And from there has been a total jump as to, okay, these people make your clothes, and these are the values, and this is how we take care. And that has led to a lot of greenwashing also. I'm not saying that has not been there. There are so many fashion brands are everybody's this and that and the other, and you will note, and you can easily say, tell when you look at the advertising campaigns. Sorry.
The problem with fashion is that it appropriates everything.
But then I still think,
and then it still remains fashionable, and it
still remains fashionable. Absolutely. But then I think there is a good lesson to.
So when there's feminism, it talks about it. When it's the other way around, it talks about it. So it's very interesting how it camouflages.
But then Swaroop, at the same time, in the last one whole year, the kind of amounts of clothing brands like Zara and H&M have had to just burn because they could not sell or even distribute or do anything. They had to resort to burning, which is what? Well, I don't know, but they were over producing, and they could not possibly find homes for their clothes. So, and people did question, there has been a lot of news around this, which we don't usually see. So I think there is a good point to take from there as to who actually does this and what do we do with them. Two participants, Shruti.
Yeah. This is a brilliant conversation. Thank you so much. I've been part of some of them. This question about sustainability, we're talking a lot about urban India and, wanting to become sustainable. Question, I'm going to cut it short. Actually, there are lots of questions I have, but taking the question of EPR and two products, just maybe batteries and low value plastic, chips packet or biscuit packets. Now, a lot of our FMCG companies, a lot of companies are basically marketing a lot so that all this reaches rural India. The small sachet packets and stuff, pan paraga, whatever it is, it's all reaching rural India. And for them, sustainability is actually its existence in their daily life. They compost, they do chash, and they are doing it in a small way. But when a whole lot of this plastic is reaching the villages, for them, this is development. Now, where is for the FMCG companies or companies where they are targeting, they're talking about EPR, what are the systems in place where that's your target audience and that's your market share? But what kind of systems are you putting into place to take back all of it? Okay, sure. Simple thing like Sundarbans, I was completely against that during the pandemic. Bottles of water were going, okay, which was really good. But at the end of it, I had a huge fallout with somebody says, why can you not take bottled water? I said, tomorrow the lake where they take the water from is going to be dumped with water.
I remember having this conversation with you, Shruti, that should we send bottles of water or not? Because we were all fundraising for the Sundarbans. Where will it go after that?
Yeah. So what is the role of, where are these people? For them, development is buying all of it, especially batteries. Batteries are going there, torches are there, radios there, chota batteries there. But is it possible to even take things back from the villages?
The answer is everything is. Agar forward distribution possible is, the reverse distribution mein kya problem hai? The only thing is cost. And I am again going back to the same point. It's a cost of compliance issue at the end of the day. How do we create? It is like, think about the amount of money which goes in making a product. Think of a phone. Agar uska retail price 70,000 rupees or 50,000 rupees hai, so at least 20,000 would have gone. How much money is being spent on recycling today? 7 rupees, 10 rupees? And वो भी highest cost है, मतलब जो बहुत ज्यादा खर्चा कर रहे हैं, जो बहुत कम खर्चा कर रहे हैं, वो शायद 20 पैसे पर फोन देने को तैयार है, 30 पैसे, 50 पैसे. So there is a huge difference in between, when we put out the product, उसके लिए one, look, it's simply the number of employees that you have for forward movement of product versus how many people are deployed in the organization for reverse collection. कुछ भी नहीं है. We are all happy to put it all out there, but nothing on the back end side. And that needs to change. And for me, again, you have a law. Eventually, it has to be tightened. It has to bring, and there will be resistance. But there will, and one of the things about, again, going back to the previous question is, it also leads to so much job creation. There is this half part of the economy which has not been created yet. I mean, look at the amount of employment that you can generate if you have people to manage all this waste, entrepreneurs setting up small scale dismantling, recycling units across the country, secondary material come into being. You have a whole, now, for example, now Niti Aayog is putting up these circular papers on 11 types of waste. If this can be addressed through them, there is a whole lot to be achieved. And it is not a urban only problem. Rural is worse. Why? Because there is no informal sector. कबाड़ी वाला यहाँ है, वहाँ पे नहीं है. यहाँ पे उठा के ले जाता है कोई घर से, वहाँ पे तो वो फेंक देते हैं बस, फील्ड में गया. तो it's the same for electronics. It is not just कि प्लास्टिक ही है. घर घर में टीवी है, घर घर में फ्रिज है, घर घर में मोबाइल फोन है, चार्जर है, और considering pandemic, आज शायद अब हर घर में लैपटॉप भी हो.
Any other questions? I see. Yeah, high penalty, single-use plastic. yeah, we were supposed to have a ban, and then we would have had penalty. But since we didn't have the ban, right now there is no penalty, and people are using plastic at an all-time high, I think, at this moment. So I
And
don't think
home
that's an
deliveries.
option. That's not an option right now. If there are no other questions, we will close this conversation. We can go on through the night like we've gone on for so many years, and I think we will still go on. And I'm very glad that I see a lot of old players in the field. I see Shruti, whom I think known from around the same time, and a lot of other people. Aban also I've known for a very long time, and they've all been thinking in the same sphere. So it's good to see all of you here. And yeah, I just think we need more of a tribe, and all of us need to, in our own respective communities, keep doing a little more